All right. Guess I'm going to start in three, two, one. And we're back. It's Agora Podcast, your home for agorism, localism, anti authoritarian ideas, and radical decentralization. I'm Sec with my co host, Sec. Damn it. Let's start over again. That was ridiculous. All right.
That was great. That was excellent.
Starting in three, two. I should include that on a blooper reel at the end. I want to do that. All right. Three, two, one. And we're back. It's no, damn it. Let me get this down here. Hold on one second. And we're back. It's Penguin. I'm here on Agora Podcast, your home for agorism, localism, anti-authoritarian ideas, and radical decentralization. I'm here with my co-host Sec Magora. We're here talking about a couple of topics. It's just the two of us this time. Sec, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I had kind of a rain day here, so I've been doing some paperwork and stuff and carving pumpkins with the kids. Right now,
I gotta do that. Gotta love rain days.
Yeah, well, I need them every now and then. Get caught up on other stuff. But right now, my house smells like if a cow farted on cooked broccoli. My other half is rendering fat to make beef tallow whipped body butter, I think it's called. And so it's infused with arnica and stuff. It's supposed to be for putting on your skin. She's been making it, and apparently it's the new hotness. So, so that's what's going on over here right now.
Nice, yeah. I had somebody calling sick today, so just took the day off of work and chillax, I guess. So I guess I'll take this out of a future. I'll take this out of a future weekend. Unfortunately, going to have to do that, but it was a very, very relaxed, chill day, and so I gotta love that. Got to have those every once in a while. I had to take a forced rain day on Thursday. Just you got to catch up, and I certainly caught up on a lot of sleep. And I mean, we talk a lot about nutrition and health and everything, but sleep is one thing it's a really easy concept, but it's a thing we a lot of us do without.
Oh yeah, I slept in a little bit today, and by
you
take
like crazy hours.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean like 7, so that's late for me, but it was good though. I had to get this work proposal done. I needed to do needed to do it. I wasn't going to have any time this week to do it anyway, so I'm glad I had today to do it. So,
you want to talk about it's a Ben Stone's book, I think. Long-time listeners have doubtlessly heard Sec mention. You might be familiar with Ben Stone, but even if you're not, you might have heard Sec mention Ben Stone in his book or podcast or some projects that he's worked on. But his book and the name, I always get the order wrong, but it's Sabotage, Subversion, and me out here.
No. Actually, wait a minute. Before we go into that, I forgot about something. Our buddy Audis, his band Sirad just came out with a new album.
That is the people that
they made our intro music. So if you dig our intro music, actually our intro music is on their new album.
Really?
Sweet. Yeah, without all the clips and stuff, but yeah. So it's out on Spotify. Go check if you're on Facebook. Go check Surrod. It's SURROD. You'll find it, and it's kind of like alternative kind of music. It's I dig it. But go check it out. I've only heard a little bit off the new album, just from whatever he's been sending me. So, I forgot to mention that last episode. So, go check that out and support our buddy. All right, but yeah, Ben Stone, he wrote his first book we're going to talk about, which is Sedition, Subversion, and Sabotage, Field Manual #1, a 3-part solution to the state. And he prefaces the book, and we're going to do the exact same, with this book is entirely a work of parody and fiction and should not be taken seriously by anyone. So if
Yeah, this is a satire podcast.
it's it's all complete satire. It says it in the beginning of the book that it is satire of the OSS Field Manual's simple sabotage. So it's not meant to be taken seriously as a call to action or anything of the sort.
The OSS, the Office of Strategic Services, I think it was the predecessor of the CIA, the main predecessor of the CIA before that was founded.
Mm-hmm. And in kind, Ben Stone's book is put out by the OSSS, the Office of Sedition, Subversion, and Sabotage. So that's what it says in the beginning of the book anyway. But I can't recommend this book enough, although we haven't mentioned it in a whole lot on this show. But to me, it is one of the most important books on strategy in our lifetime. And so if you want the book, if you go to libertyunderattackpublications.com/Ben Stone audiobook, it'll bring you to a free audiobook of that, a free PDF, or you can buy the physical copy. So that's where you can find that, because you have to read the book. We'll try to do it justice here in an episode long discussion, but I would really go read the book. Several premises he starts with, and he makes the argument for, is that both corporate and government property are illegitimate property claims. And Ben Stone's an anarcho-capitalist, so, but he makes a very good case that corporate property, and I agree, that corporate property is not legitimate property, and government property is not legitimate property, and these are actually both should be considered unowned property, and therefore subject to homesteading. So seizing government and or corporate property is actually an act of homesteading, if we're speaking in terms of ethics or first principles. So you can kind of see where he goes from that starting premise. So the book is divided into 3 parts. It's subversion, simple sabotage, and ethics-based irregular warfare. So the picture, and James Corbett just put out a small episode about 40 minutes long where he goes into simple sabotage as a potential solution. He goes into things like quiet quitting, or just being a general fuck up at work as an actual method of sabotage to slow down or cause damage to the state and corporate machine. So that was a good episode too. You should go check that out. I posted it in a couple of places. But Ben Stone divides it into those 3 parts, and then he sort of categorized that as like sedition being the above ground faction of some sort of state resistance. This is sort of stems from his series called Going Beyond Civil Disobedience. So sedition would include things like education, media, protesting, political activism, generally causing disruption and mocking memes, trying to delegitimize things, but in a delegitimize the system, politicians, what have you, but in a more above ground manner. And then simple sabotage is a bit more underground. We're talking about causing damage to infrastructure, machinery, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there. But generally causing, and he gives long, extensive examples and how tos about how to go about this and why. And then ethics based warfare would be things like assassinations, blackmail, hit and run tactics, thieving from munitions that stores, that kind of thing. But he makes the point that and I often make this point too, that like sort of actual combat or violence is actually a very, very small aspect of asymmetrical warfare. So you need things like, supply lines, production and distribution, resource allocation that exist outside of enemy hands. You need human intelligence networks. You need community. You need the ability to produce weaponry, food, etc., education. Community, I already said. You need all of these things before anybody ever picks up a rifle, right? Rifle combat should be like a junior partner, so to speak. You need all.
Okay, I want to interrupt you right there, man. I don't want to lose this thought in by going on to the more topics. Have you listened to friend of the show, CJ Kilmer's episode that I listened to the past 3 days of or maybe it was the past week anyway, of
regular warfare?
No, I haven't gotten to that yet, but where he compared the Western and Eastern thoughts of warfare. That's basically how he summarized it. But basically, Western thought that comes out of the classical period compared to the Eastern thought, which comes directly from Sun Tzu. But have you? Does that ring a bell at all?
I don't think I've heard that episode, but I'm very familiar with Sun Tzu.
Yeah, so I'm familiar with seeing Sun Tzu quotes, but actually to have him put in context, very well. So you understand, if you're very familiar with Sun Tzu, then it reminds me very, very familiar with that fighting is de-emphasized. Pitched battle and direct engagements are de-emphasized, and of course the most pertinent Sun Tzu quote is something along the lines that I'll paraphrase, where the best way to win a war is to win without fighting. Yes. So which is pretty obvious if you're doing asymmetrical warfare. So basically, and we discussed this on one of our very first episodes, that you kind of direct engagement basically plays into the hands of the organization you're confronting, when that organization is the one that's the best and most efficient at dealing out organized violence and institutional violence.
Right. I mean, the state very much is a centralized. It's a violence broker. It's a purveyor of violence. That's what it does.
Well, it has the monopoly. It has the monopoly on the legitimate violence. So, of course, then that means that the legitimate violence that is deemed necessary and is incentivized in various ways, is going to have to come from it. So they get very good at it over time. And they maintain the equipment to do it and the manpower to do it in ways that wouldn't be sustainable without, coercive taxation and just kind of generally being able to take the reins of the economy itself. So they're in a position to do this in a way, in a manner, and in a scale and a scope that nobody else is able to, nobody else is going to be able to. So, I mean, there obviously is a strengths and weakness aspect to that, but at the same time, they're just going to be unmatched as far as firepower, to put it simply.
Right. They have endless resources and bodies to throw at it. Right. Near
Which
infinite.
this is one reason why, like, without a state, in theory, I don't think you'd see possibility of extreme levels of like mass violence. Obviously, even on a decentralized scale, is just the fact that that this form of being equipped and prepared and being able to marshal the manpower and resources is basically something that is pretty much unique to the concept of a large
Nation
state
state.
apparatus.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So if it has infinite resources, manpower, and not literally infinite, but virtually infinite, and is the biggest organization that can execute violence, it would be silly to think that violence would be the key tactic to defeat that enemy, right? So the only way you could is in a complete war of attrition. And that's how most of modern warfare has been fought. It's just you destroy and raze their society to the ground as much as possible until they give up, right? So that's how we would have to defeat the state. And we do not have the manpower, resources, or the ability to inflict violence that the state does. So we cannot win in a war of attrition, right? So we have to
Well, that's how
fight
you
and think
that's how you fight a state.
What's that?
Yeah, that's how you fight. That's how you fight a state.
That's how the
It's
state
not how
fights
you
other
fight.
states, right?
It's how a state, and that's what. So that's how. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying is that's how a state is fought. So to look at, for an example, the U.S. invasion of Iraq, like this one state invaded another state and destroyed that state apparatus and that government very quickly. Now, that doesn't mean that the war was over or that things were easy from that point on. That was the easiest phases of the war.
Right.
But you know what I mean? That's because the state is equipped to destroy other states, and there's plenty of billions or even trillions of dollars accumulated of equipment and material and stuff and training that's not particularly nearly as useful against an insurgency as
yes, you make a great
not
point.
particularly useful against an insurgency. Yeah. So I don't know where I was going with that. It made sense when you said that. Yeah.
No. So that's you're making a great point. So the state is very good at fighting other states, and it razed Iraq to the ground. But what happened after that? You had the insurgency, and they fought the U.S. fought a brutal counterinsurgency war there, and got their asses more or less handed to them. I mean, they left. So the Sunni insurgency was crushed, but they had to give so much power to the Shiite factions that Shiite factions kicked them out afterwards. Do you know what I'm saying? So
from day one of the disintegration of the Iraqi government, it's not even like the war was lost on the so-called battlefield, and the so-called battlefield, by the way, being the entire country. But it's not even like the war was lost in the physical battlefield. It was lost like politically and like bureaucratically. Like they didn't have certain goals. There was all these different deals being made that didn't make any sense. Just, you know what I mean? Like it's something so actually, dealing with this kind of situation where you just win the war so fast so for one thing, there's so many weapons and people. The entire army just walked away and went home. That's a whole nother story. But the point is, there ended up being a crazy amount of men and military trained men and weapons. And this is going to be like relevant to the discussion that were just there in country, and the government is just not equipped to deal with that situation. The military apparatus just isn't equipped to deal with the situation. So, it just kind of fell apart on them. That what had to be done couldn't be done with an army, so to speak.
Right. So this kind of goes back to my point. The state is equipped to fight other states, and it does that very well. And we're talking about the greatest the biggest military the world has ever seen. So
and the point that I was trying to make is that so that's not only just how states fight other states, but that's how a state is defeated. So it'd be ridiculous to think that the decentralized non-state actors or actors or entities or whatever are going to be able to do the same thing. But that's how you defeat a state. But that's not really within the realm of possibility. But clearly there are weaknesses to that kind of institutional structure as well.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying is you wouldn't fight a state like a state fights other states. Because you're fighting according to your enemy's strengths. So you fight a state, the way you would defeat the state is asymmetrically. And then, yes, combat in an asymmetric situation is actually de-emphasized because you want to bring you are limited in material and personnel. So you want to limit the potential risk of losing people, right? So other things take a priority in a asymmetric warfare situation other than combat, such as sabotage and also resource production. Like, so if I've said this many times, it doesn't matter how many rifles you have, doesn't how many weapons you have. If your enemy can starve you out, you've already lost. You know what I mean? So you have to be able to acquire the resources that you need to supply your resistance without the enemy's control. So anyway, I mean, back to Ben Stone's book. He would divide this into a very decentralized situation where it's not one organization. No, people do not know what other people are doing tactically. Your people are generally following one strategy, so to speak, but are not interacting with each other. He defines different forms of organization theory, or organizational concepts such as distributed, decentralized, and centralized. And what we're going for is distributed, where you're not interacting and planning on a tactical level with large groups. It's possibly just you and a small group of people, and you're acting pretty much alone without knowledge of any other sort of let's say comrades in arms or anything like that. And whatever it is that you're doing. And everyone should, he also suggests in the book that you should really ask yourself what you are willing to do and what your role is here. Because not everyone needs to be or is the right fit for some deep underground highly illegal and risky business. Your place might be just literally building some sort of underground business or organization, or standing with a sign on the side of the road, or help building a local food not bombs network in your neighborhood, or community defense. You know what I mean? Like, all these things are necessary for what is occurring going forward. Not everybody has to be what he called the Lego brigade, the people that are he often refers to the state as the beast or the dragon. Not everybody has to be the person who puts the Legos out on the carpet for the dragon to step on and fall down the stairs. There's lots of other crucial support roles that are not only there, but vitally important, aside from being some sort of militia member or, you know, somebody doing assassinations. That's a small part of it. We need lots of other people that are doing, you know, somewhat seemingly mundane things, but are incredibly important. And I lost my train of thought. And then, so you have to ask yourself, where do you fit? You know, are you more on the above ground? What's your risk? What's your level of risk aversion? You know, what are your personal variables? You know, for me, I've, you know, asked myself this same question. I have kids. So having kids makes me simultaneously vulnerable and also very dangerous. So, like, what I mean is there's literally nothing I wouldn't do to protect my kids. There's no pile of bodies too high to protect my children. So that means I will go much farther than maybe some others wouldn't. But also it means I would do anything to protect my kids. So that means I cannot be put in a situation where I take on too much risk. You understand what I'm saying? Because that is a potential pressure point that federal agents could use to pressure me into a bad situation. So I understand very well what my personal flaws and, you know, and risk aversion, and I know myself very well, and I know my place in this, and I've had that personal conversation with myself and with my other half, and you know, I sit very well as somewhat of a, you know, a go between the sort of the underground, and I exist in the gray, and I'm very happy there, and I'm okay with that. So I'm very okay with doing some very minor risks and pranks and sabotage, things that are somewhat low risk and easy to get away with, while also being somewhat of a go between the above ground and the underground. He brings up the IRA and what was the political party in Ireland that supported the IRA?
Sinn Féin.
Sinn Féin. Jesus. So this is a perfect example. Sinn Féin was the above ground, the political party, pushing for, you know, educating people, but also pushing for, you know, home rule and acted as like a soapbox, you know, a podium to speak from. And while they often condemned publicly what the IRA was doing, there was actually a lot of connection between Sinn Féin and the IRA. So, but on paper and in the public, they had no connection with each other. So he uses this as a metaphor, that this Lego brigade, the underground, the ethics based, you know, warfare, he calls it the Lego brigade often, should have no connection with the whatsoever with any kind of above ground anarchist or liberty oriented mouthpiece, because you know, education and all of these things is important, but there needs to be delineation between these two so that one can continue to operate separate from the other. Question so far?
No. Yeah, that reminds me of episode 1 when the the Keen Liberty activists had just recently been arrested and everything. We kind of were talking about you mentioned that, and that's exactly where you got it from. You might have actually mentioned Ben Stone at that point, which means he probably was mentioned in episode 1, to be honest with you, somewhere. But
I mean, it seems so obvious to me. Do you know what I mean? Just from somebody who's done things like that you don't go shouting it from the rooftops. Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah. So if you're going to be serious about these things, and I always say, like, what are signs that someone is or isn't serious. And not to make any comments on what they do up in New Hampshire. Those are some very special people that are doing some pretty crazy things. And you know, they've got their own kind of goals and motivations. And I gotta say, very motivated people up there, whatever. But when it comes to real acts of, as Ben Stone titles his book, darn it, sedition, that's the one that always trips me up. Sedition's subversion and sabotage. That is something that you need to keep is you need to keep your, basically you need to keep your cover as tight as an intelligence agent would. So I'm someone who grew up and eventually, like as an adult, revisited a lot of the Tom Clancy books. You know, nothing particularly like libertarian about that. You know, it's all about just government agents doing government agency things all over the world, but it's great stuff and cool. It's a cool way to learn if you like guns and ships and planes and stuff. But it's also a lot of like spycraft and stuff. I can think of because I was reading some of the core books. So Cardinal and the Kremlin, very much like very spycraft oriented book, even though it's not necessarily one of the most exciting ones. But they all have storylines going in there. That's a lot of intelligence tradecraft or whatever. And you know, you've really got to do your story. I've read a few Wikipedia way overly detailed Wikipedia articles and stuff on, you know, like human intelligence that was mentioned earlier and different intelligence gathering techniques and stuff that I've kind of found by poking around the internet. And you've got to that tradecraft and that level of what to CIA types would be professionalism is something that can be adopted and worked in the other direction as well. And I think it's not professionalism in this case, but you know, it's we can definitely learn from that. And I mean, it's just the same thing as in, I'm sure I'm not the first person to have this idea, but not by many decades, but it's the same thing as in like people taking the improvised explosives U.S. Army manuals from, I don't know, 50s or 60s or wherever they're from, or any of the other U.S. Army manuals or SAS manuals and stuff, and be like, yeah, I'm gonna read this and be a survivalist and everything. Well, you know, just intelligence tradecraft, admittedly needing to be updated, to the 21st century. That's a big one right there. But that stuff can be certainly used in the idea of, you know, gathering human intelligence and the different techniques and ways to what's the word, like not manipulate people, but like manipulate people, run assets, kind of gain leverage on people. And there's all sorts of stuff that we can borrow from the intelligence community, that whole profession that I think is underemphasized as compared to like, so these people weren't particularly libertarians or in any way like anarchist oriented, but like the militia movements and different kind of, you know, more typically right leaning, I don't want to say militia movements again, but paramilitary kind of groups, or, you know, in that direction. But you do see a lot more holistic stuff on their side when it comes to different kind of techniques that are militarily valuable, not just guns, not just survival, but like first aid and various other things. And then there's, you know, escape and evasion. Then you get into like, you know, covert entry and exfiltration, and you can get into some cool shadowy stuff. But direct intelligence gathering and surveillance and all those techniques that would be used by, you know, undercover cops, by intelligence agents, and, or, you know, your so-called secret police and more obsolete terminology. That's very useful, I think. Stuff. I think this stuff's so cool, by the way, and that's very useful. And it's like, now also it's like it's a way to do the reverse gray man, because those people are the if those people were the epitome of gray, you know, undercover cops and spies are the epitome of gray man before gray man was ever a thing on the internet from like, you know, survivalist LARPers. So yeah, I think there's a lot we can gather from some of the more spookier sides of things. Lock picking and all that kind of stuff's really cool. I think of lock picking itself as being a little bit obsolete. for the most part, but there's a lot of stuff in that category that I'm like super interested in, covert entry and exfiltration and stuff like that. So that's what I was thinking.
Learning how to lockpick, mostly for that
It's
reason. I don't know
a lot
how
of people do that
obsolete
at sport.
is, but
You know, the thing is that, like, yeah, you can learn to pick the simplest locks, like you can learn to pick like a grocery store master lock, but they get pretty complicated up there. And at that point, there's generally going to be, it's not going to be worth your while to pick it versus some other kind of entry technique. But luckily, there are a lot of different kind of entry techniques. And then, of course, you know, the problem is a lot of the simpler vulnerabilities that we're easy to take advantage of are you know, quickly found by the industry, and they work around them. You used to be able to just to poke a little pokey stick in a certain place, and in most locks sold of a certain type in this country, those things would just smash open, or like all of the commercial door locks with the thumb term latches, and like every store in the country is basically one type of lock, and there was like a huge vulnerability. And you know, if you have the right shape thing, but then they try to shield it and go around it, and it's a really cool community of people that are like super into this stuff. And they do all sorts of things, like tamper with, and they do like tampering with anti-tamper labels, and you know, different every sort of exploit of every sort of security and anti-theft or anti-tamper or surveillance technology that you can imagine. It's really interesting stuff. And it's amazing, like, you know, we always think about, like, we have access to a decent, like, compared to other countries and everything, certainly, but because compared to the global norm, like, we have access to a decent amount of firepower and the ability to train with it and do whatever we want, and be do the physical fitness, combat medicine aspect and everything. And I mean, that's pretty cool that we're able to do that. But there's actually a lot of other more shadowy stuff that you can just buy and learn how to use and train with, and those resources are out there. And I'm sure that you might not be doing it, or you might be, some of you listen to our podcast, but those resources are out there, and those, at the very least, those videos out there, the equipment's out there, and you can train with it on your own. And some people, you know, with clean record, that want to stay above board as much as possible, can do some of these things as a profession. The lock picking and safe profession. I've thought about even getting into it. You have access to a lot of techniques and tools. You got to keep yourself sensibly above board and everything. But if you know somebody, they can offer you a lot of information and tips or access to equipment.
So you bring up a good point, and I think Ben goes into this somewhat in the book, but yeah, intelligence gathering and surveillance is probably one of the most overlooked aspects of this that is super important. So if we could, I don't know, he brings up an example. Imagine if you surveilled some politician or banker or whatever for, you know, weeks and months, and you found out he was cheating on his wife, let's say. So actually he says that, but also he's like, what if you could switch out his suit and send him back one with lipstick on the collar that wasn't his wife, and slip a thing in his pocket that said, oh, I had such a great time last night, just to screw with his home life. And Ben does borrow a lot from, like, actual intelligence tactics, like that's a counterintelligence program tactic to try to screw with what the CIA and the FBI used to do is try to screw with people that were in, like, radical movements. They screwed with their personal lives to try to get them to put under so much stress that they quit being in the movement. You know,
that's a new one. But I want to just butt in and say
pretty common. Yeah, that was real common.
Yeah, I just want to butt in and say, in the world of human intelligence, that is basically, and this is fundamental, like Intel 101. That's on human intelligence. That's the ability to gain, like I mentioned before, leverage or coerce people. Is how you either get an asset or get somebody to an asset in some way, either to do something or not do something. Yeah, that's to be able to blackmail you. I mean, that's why the government runs so many background checks on people to give. That's why clearance basically exists, is so they can check to see if you can be basically manipulated, blackmailed, or you're an
Leverage.
infiltrator
Yep.
yourself. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, that's intelligence gathering 101, and if that's specifically in the realm of human intelligence. Yeah. So basically,
we could learn from that.
Yeah. So like in human intelligence, basically the reasons that I don't want to get this wrong, but I can remember them all. The reasons you can get somebody on flip somebody as an asset is either monetary reasons, which could be they're in debt or they have a gambling addiction, but it could be bribery, but it's usually something a little more sensitive than that. Ideology, so you could have somebody that you do like flip ideologically. If you were the Soviets, they might be sympathetic with communists, but if it's especially nowadays, if in our context, you might even find that more of a possibility to somebody in certain people that you might come across in certain contexts.
Or people that are just dissatisfied with their job, who might be willing to, like, say they work at some important factory that is crucial strategically, and they're dissatisfied or disgruntled at their job. Well, you might be able to get them to do certain things at that job that you might not be able to get somebody else to do. Whether that's sabotage or theft or just going in and doing a really shitty job or leaving a back door open. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so
that kind of thing. Yeah. But just to round that up, so you can move on. Coercion. The other ones are coercion and ego, and I think obviously coercion. I don't know how much you be able to coerce people with from the bottom up versus the top down, but possibly I don't know. Or ego, and ego I think might be even cover a lot of what you just mentioned, like for personal reasons. You can get somebody. You might be able to expand that and say for whatever personal reasons, personal dissatisfaction, you can get somebody to like alter their behavior.
Yeah, and I honestly, I think this might be, like I said, this is probably one of the more overlooked aspects of warfare, and I think it's something that we need to build upon because we can learn a lot from this. And I always harp on production. We need our own production and distribution and etc. And those are by far the most important. But something that we don't talk about enough, I think, is how to gather intelligence, how to surveil. I guess the resources are definitely out there, but these networks of human intelligence need to be built as well. And that is definitely somewhere where we are lacking.
Yeah, and this is like old news to people that do this. So yes. Keep in mind now there's all kinds of people that do this. Cops do this. Not even like the most sophisticated departments. There's private investigators. Like there's journalists. So when you were talking about like the trying to catch the politician cheating on his wife or whatever, I mean, you can imagine a journalist could get very could build the skills and become very talented at doing this exact thing and using like social engineering to get access to this and that. And like, you can imagine a lot of people have developed these techniques and shared it amongst each other. So yeah, there's no reason to even relatively to lag behind even relatively lay people. But I was going to say, but this stuff's also not like, this stuff's also obviously really old news. So then you've got to deal with like counterintelligence and do counterintelligence. So like, let's say you're in a, I'm going to use like a really obvious example. So let's say you're in a combat zone. Don't let enemy, so let's say some situation goes hot and there's like armed troops nearby. Don't be caught like talking on a cell phone and right. have when they're driving by, because they will shoot you. That will be that's grounds to shoot you. Especially if you're a male of military age and you're talking on a cell phone when a convoy rolls up, they're going to shoot you. And even less overt things, you could get detained and have your cover easily blown. I mean, they can do a whole lot. I'm sure they do a lot of police type forensics and DNA testing. And I mean, you're going to have to really think that they have like 100-year head start on you if you're trying to over on the people who do this thing every day.
Yeah, and I think it's useful to think of it in this way. Like I think of this, whatever this is we're doing, our resistance to the state. I think of it as warfare, and I think it's important for us to think of it as warfare. It's not. We have to reimagine what we think of as warfare, right? Warfare is a
Very
lot of
low
things.
intensity warfare.
Yes, it's not combat. It's a economic warfare is also warfare. You know what I'm saying? Like,
True.
these things are all aspects of warfare. It's just we're fighting a low level insurgency over generations, right? So, our strategy is mostly economic warfare, but we can also use other tactics in conjunction with that for those that are specifically specialized for those things and best suited for them. And that doesn't mean everybody, right? So, everybody's got their place in this, and you just have to find out where yours is and do whatever it is that you're suited for, right? Whether that's intelligence gathering or production or rifle skills, security, community defense. That might be media, that might be education. You know what I mean? That might be, we need people pointing at better solutions and also pointing at the failures of the system at the same time. Do you know what I mean? In a very above board, above ground way to reach more, people. And so every time the system fails again, we have simultaneously built more solutions for the failures of the system, while there's people in the above ground pointing to those failures of the system and pointing at the solutions, and there's people in the underground that are actively working to erode the infrastructure of this system, call it whatever you like. So and Ben Stone goes into this, and so does Corbett on his episode on Simple Sabotage. Simple Sabotage doesn't just mean like blowing up machines. Do you know what I mean? It could be just doing a really shitty job. So I'll give you an example. So during the Holocaust in Germany in World War II, they used the Jews as slave labor until they could no longer work, and then they'd kill them. So they had a lot of these Jews working at munitions factories. And so they couldn't outright resist, like overtly. They couldn't resist and rise up because they would just be killed, right? But what they did do is just do as shitty of a job making the rifles for the German war machine as they possibly could get away with, right? So maybe the sight on every so many rifles was just a little off, or maybe the barrel was just not quite straight, or maybe I don't know, like some minor part was just a little bit too loose, so that after a certain amount of time it would fail. But it wasn't something that the inspectors would notice when they're going through thousands of machines. And this is very well documented. That was their manner of resistance. And that's fucking resistance also. Do you know what I mean? That's warfare also. So you could be working at fucking whatever the thing is. Whatever you could work at the DMV or a county clerk's, or you could be working at some multi-level shithole evil corporation where they don't give a fuck about you and you hate it. Okay. Well, what you can do is you can just fuck things up there, just like the counterintelligence people would when they infiltrate a movement. You can start causing problems there. You can just do a really shitty, slow job. You can lose files. Oh, whoops, I'm fucking terribly sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. It'll never happen again. And you just do just barely a shitty job, but without getting fired, as shitty as you possibly can do without getting fired, right? And that's fucking sabotage also. That is resistance also. Do you know what I mean? We have to really expand what we think of as insurgency warfare and resistance, because all of these things are necessary and just as important. That is just as important as taking up arms in the streets. I'm telling you that right now, because for every one person with a rifle, there has to be 10 hundreds of people that support that person in an insurgency. So without all the rest of these people, that person with a rifle is meaningless. Do you know what I mean? So you have to do whatever you can to tear down this machine from wherever you're at, from whatever your skills are, from whatever you have access to whatever resources you can accrue. You have to do what you can do. And that might look very, very different than what you might think. You know what I mean? I don't know. I can't think of another example right now, but I mean, let's see. Maybe you'll work at Lockheed Martin or fucking Boeing or whatever, and just go really fucking slow on that government contract. Maybe they lose that government contract because of that. I don't know. You just go be really shitty. Fucking clog toilets there. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just, to me, like vandalism and sabotage and that whatever is, if you can bleed them of their resources, that is what wins insurgent warfare, because it's not about necessarily conquering that other state's territory. It's about making it too expensive for them to continue to fight. You understand? So
Yeah,
go ahead.
I mean, there's a good example of a thing that should always be fought against. Lockheed Martin is something this bad that always should be fought against, because they're making weapons they're being used at a constant. Also, I guess their presence can also have effects, but they're also used at a pretty constant rate, and they're weapons that kill, and they kill on a military battlefield, wielded by sophisticated military. Blah blah blah. We all know what that is, but depending on like the nature of the conflict, I mean, once things heat up on some level, I mean, people that are working above board and working jobs, I mean, the possibilities just grow. So like maybe you work for an airline and takes just a little computer glitch gets the half the country's flights delayed, and there's a huge snarl, and maybe that's timed for a specific reason, or maybe there's something with the rail logistics, and then you get a bunch of shortages, maybe shortages of military material or something, and then you get some question of do you create difficulties for population. But in terms of war, once there starts to be a little bit of a breakout of a hot conflict, I mean, civil society still has to go on. So if you're in a position to do something like that, I guess that's where the sabotage aspect comes in. But obviously, if you're directly involved in something like weapons, the time is always now.
Yeah, exactly right. Like, if you can, there's always wars going on somewhere else, whether or not we are in a hot war, right? But the U.S. government is always at war somewhere. So if you can slow down that war machine, to me, or cause havoc in any way to that war machine, you are doing a good thing, in my opinion, because that's potentially less poor people's body parts splattered across other parts of the world. So to me, that's 100% good. And I think not only does it have like potential positive ramifications right now, but it also may have potential positive ramifications later on down the road. So it really takes everybody's small efforts from everybody. And yeah, like you said, oops, it was just some kind of computer glitch. I don't know what happened. Oh, I'm terribly sorry, sir. And yeah, half the flights go down. And yes, you could time that with some other actions that are occurring elsewhere, right? Or you got you know that there's some dickhead politician who you don't like, or some CEO from whatever, who I don't know why they're flying commercial, but um whoever, and you just, oh, whoops, I'm sorry, for some reason this flight got delayed, and then they miss their flight, and that ruins their day. And it just, um you know, this is taken a little bit from Fight Club. You know, they shit in every politician's baker's soup or whatever the thing, you know, but you can really, I don't think, don't underestimate the power of stressing your enemy out, because that's intelligence's MO. Like, if they got an asset or a group that they're trying to put down, they make them have fights with each other, like cause infighting. They cause personal stress in that person's lives. They try to get them to commit fucking suicide. They dig up dirt on them. You know what I mean? So, like, any little, like, screw you can turn, the screw with them on even on the smallest level, might just fucking ruin their day. They might just quit their job. They might just go crazy and live in the woods. You have no idea. So, like, if you can just, like, if everyone just fucked with them a little bit, do you know what I mean? Like, oh, I work at the airlines, doing data entry into the computer or whatever, and I noticed that there's this asshole politician or banker or whoever the hell it is, and you just ruin their fucking day. Just ruin their day. Or slip a fucking, like I said before, yeah, Ben Stone uses this example specifically, but slip like a note with lipstick on it into their pocket. It says, "Oh, I had a really great time." So then when they get home and they go to meet their wife, and their wife does their laundry or whatever, she finds this note and it ruins their marriage. Bing. You know what I mean? Like, these people, now, before you can say, like, hey, that's a really terrible thing to do. Okay, these are people that will, like, threaten the lives of your children. Do you know what I mean? Like, they will absolutely threaten the lives of your children. They will, whatever they have to do, there is no low that they will not stoop to. So we must sort of act in kind, those of us that are willing and able. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, and we're using discretion. I mean, these are people, I don't know if every single politician in this country gets the same treatment, or every single industry gets the same treatment, or every, in every context, it's like a indiscriminate kind of thing. No, for one thing, not everybody, it's not even worth it in most cases, but, like,
it'd be a waste of resources to do it to everybody. Yes. But yeah.
Yes, and when you opened this, you had mentioned that corporate and government property just claims are not considered, like, Ben Stone does not consider those valid. And I'm like, okay, maybe on a theoretical level, that's plainly true. You can make the claim, but I think in practical reality, it is not the same for everyone, but there is a gradient. There's, like, a spectrum on which we're willing to challenge a government entity or a specific corporation. Like, in practice, and we're not going to necessarily challenge the corporate property of, like, a craft muffin shop as we are, Raytheon. I mean, we're always going back to the same corporations, but, like,
right. It's easy to pick on Raytheon, though,
or to say Norfolk Southern, or Bank of America, or, I mean, I just can mention whatever huge.
Yeah, Archer Daniels Midland, Monsanto. Yes, you pick your Bayer, whatever. Yeah, pick your evil corporation. So there's there's the ethical argument, and then there's the practical argument, right? So currently speaking, government and corporate property is not a legitimate claim to property. So that's the moral, that's the ethical argument, right? Now, you might say, and I would also say that there's an ethical argument coupled with this, that I think violence against the state and at least certain corporations could be considered self-defense. Now, those are two ethical arguments. Now we have the practical argument. Is it a practical use of our resources to go after every single incorporated business? No, obviously not. We should more prioritize our actions, right? Because we couldn't afford to go after everyone. Now, is it practical to commit violence against every state actor? No, obviously not. That's just going to quickly land you in prison and not change anything, right?
Yeah. For example, I don't think you should be shooting. You're shooting at the postman.
No, right.
I don't think you should be shooting at the postman in an insurgency. Just let him deliver his mail. I don't know.
I wouldn't be for murdering the postman, but I would be for blackmailing him into quitting his job. So yeah, this would be like an individual valuation. What do you feel comfortable with? Right. I agree. There's going to be different valuations, and we have to weigh each case.
Yeah, but it's common sense also.
Yeah, common sense.
It's generally common sense. Like, you're not going to be motivated.
I'm not for murdering the postman or the dog catcher or whatever the thing. I'm not.
Yeah. You got to, but you've got to be motivated to do something.
I wouldn't be opposed to somebody, and it wouldn't necessarily be me because this is not my jam. But like running an intelligence op on the postman and leaning on them, gaining leverage on them to get them to do something else that you need them to do for your operation. I'm okay with that. To me,
totally that could be useful.
Yeah, and to me, they're a legitimate target for something like that, right? So, Stone, and I agree with this, and very much, and I'm not the only one. Makes the moral or the ethical argument that, these are not legitimate property. So, if it is wise to do so, stealing government or corporate property or damaging, etc., is entirely ethical to do so. But you have to pick your targets or battles wisely. You know what I mean? You can't just lash out at anybody. It's not going to make any sense. And also you have to think about optics, right? So if you're still the general idea is to win hearts and minds, right? That's key to insurgent warfare. So you're not going to win hearts and minds by going out and starting to murder postmen. You know what I mean? Or like random airlines, like fucking scientists like Ted Kaczynski. You're not winning any friends that way, and you're not winning anybody to your cause. But I don't think anybody's going to cry if you blackmailed the CEO of Raytheon or like ran an op to ruin his marriage, or if you had somebody particularly like awful who was responsible for the murder and torture of many people. If somebody took that guy out, I don't think anybody is gonna. I don't think I wouldn't cry over that. I wouldn't cry if somebody took out Dick Cheney. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. Like yes, we have to judge these things on a case by case basis, and there is certainly a gradient, and it's also going to come down to like individual choices and wisdom. You know what I mean? So, yeah, no, I agree with you pretty much. I don't think just because they are a government worker that they are necessarily a legitimate target for at least violence.
Yeah, and I'm mainly talking about, just to be clear, I mean, okay, yes, so we can pick the postman, we could pick for a property argument, we could pick a public park, we could pick all sorts of things, but whatever. But I'm mainly thinking of specifically like corporate property. Like I said, I don't want to think like the local artisan muffin shop or the local, that's a business, the local discount grocer, the dollar store. I mean, people like to shop at the dollar store, and I don't have any interest. And I mean, there's the argument about shoplifting, whatever. Don't even need to go there. But like, I'm not going to blow it up, and nor do I really have any interest in even taking out the local McDonald's, unless you can find some sort of strategic value in doing that. Not that we're trying to take out
any strategic value in that, but there's probably some strategic value in, I don't know, swiping something from there that can be useful for another operation. I'd be totally okay with that. Yeah, I don't know, fucking steal their fry later, or their deep fryers, so you can go start feeding homeless. I don't know.
Sabotage the soft
milkshake machine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, yeah, maybe it doesn't make for one, it doesn't make sense. Why would you blow up the McDonald's? But it might
Defend
make
Burger
sense
Town.
it might make sense to
No.
like the local dollar store or the Dollar Tree or whatever, or the McDonald's. It might make sense to expropriate some part of their property for better uses. Do you know what I mean? So um I don't want to say like, yeah, that's what I'm going for. Let's go blow up McDonald's. That's not my jam. Like, I don't think that makes any sense. But I also don't want to limit our imagination as to what is possible either. So if you're running an operation and you need to go steal something from the Dollar Tree, I don't think that this is like theft. I don't think this is an immoral act. So go ahead and do it and get it done for whatever you have.
I just set out that argument.
What's that?
I understand that. I understand that why you come to that position, but I just sit out that argument. I don't.
No, I get you.
I just don't. I sit out
so
that
listen,
argument. I don't know where I want to draw the line, and I choose not to draw the line.
Right, it's really hard. Where do you draw the line? Because technically speaking, I mean, I have been incorporated before, so I was a corporation. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I understand, and I was a very small business. You know, I was making a couple $100,000 a year or whatever. Nothing.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
So I understand, like, that would not be our primary targets, right? And then that's not what we're really thinking about when we're talking about corporations, really. Although, technically speaking, to be incorporated, you must use state violence to do so, and this is not a legitimate property claim, right? But we might have.
I mean, but the argument is that a contractual entity could exist, and maybe arguably, I don't know if this is.
Oh, sure. This is what I was.
That's where I was going. Free market,
right? We might have a reasonable conversation about what that. We might have a reasonable conversation that might actually exist in a free society, right? Like your grandma's LLC, exist. Right?
Yes, or like a stores would exist.
Right.
I don't know what the legal organization would be called. I don't know if it's been like pretty convincingly argued that some sort of contractual entity that's like a chartered entity that acts in lieu of people, whatever, like basically what a corporation is, could exist. And even if it couldn't exist in that form, like people would have companies and co-ops. Sure. So again, this is why we have to use discretion. And I think a lot of people that advocate for not using discretion do that specifically to be edgy, because I mean, really, you've got to have some sort of. I can see the shoplifting, like, okay, I can justify shoplifting based on this, and this, and I get the argument, and I just don't like to go into that direction, personally. But I totally get the argument. I think.
I think people should steal from Walmart.
If you think that lying is morally unacceptable, who is it okay to lie to? Is it okay to lie to cops? Was it okay to lie to a bank officer, a bank loan officer or something? Probably, I guess, depending on what you want to do.
Is it okay to lie to the devil?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it okay to lie to the Nazis?
Yes.
Is it okay to lie to the cops?
Yes, I would say yes.
Government agents also okay to lie to?
Yeah,
I don't like lying either. I find it to be I don't like it. Number one, it doesn't serve me. It's a pain in my ass to have to remember lies. But number two,
lies is the hard one.
Right. It doesn't. I just don't want to live my life like that. It sounds like a terrible way to live. But also, I feel gross doing it. So I'm always better off just telling people the truth, except for people who would willingly do me harm, right? So that, like, the devil, the cops, the fucking Nazis, the military, I would say. I'm not telling the truth to the fucking Raytheon. I'm not telling the truth to Boeing. And then Walmart, listen, man, like, they exist because of violence and coercion, and they use that violence and coercion to be the only game in town. So, at what point do they become an aggressor? you know what I mean? Like
an easy one is a bank, though. An easy one is a bank. Like, why are you
bank,
opening this
obvious.
account? Are you going to be involved in cryptocurrency in a way that they can't track? So, are you getting wire transfers for this purpose? We've heard about where this becomes relevant because there's so much KYC around any kind of either assets or money. Yeah, I think in banks, I don't know, man. I mean, I might not lie to my local credit union. I really like them, but if any kind of bank, yeah, just go ahead. It's a branch of the Federal Reserve, and the stakes might be if you're doing real stuff with crypto. Either the stuff supporting in the crypto is used to obfuscate, or if your activism is directly crypto related, like you might be doing important work to bring down a system that's incredibly coercive and harmful, like the government's, the state's money monopoly. Go ahead and lie, for sure. I think that's an even easier one for me personally, just speaking personally, than the shoplifting one even. But that's also come from my religious background, and just I don't know, it gets complicated because then that's like stores are. How local are stores to the economy, and what's the company? I don't know. It's such a minefield. I don't think banks are hard. It's the branches of the Federal Reserve government, Federal Reserve Bank.
Right. I mean, it
I was
comes
going
down
to
to
say,
like, are you really stealing from thieves? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, is that actually theft? If you're stealing from thieves to give it back,
yeah.
especially
So
if you're
when
giving
it
it
comes
back
to,
to the community.
I think a good a moral test. That's why I brought up the lying. I mean, we don't need to be talking about the morality of necessarily lying here, but it's a good like moral test. And so I think like based on Islamic tradition, I won't go into too great detail. This is like one hadith where there is like four explicit examples given of when it's okay to lie, and importantly, one of them is like when you're at war, when you have your enemy, like when you're at war, like an actual enemy, someone you're in hostilities with or whatever. I don't know the exact wording, and then I think to myself like, okay, so I guess I kind of applied this to other things, maybe like theft, where it's like if you're saying this is morally justified, you're actually saying that you're in a position where you're in hostilities, you're actually like basically at war with the party that you're doing that against, and are you going to act accordingly? And if so, I mean, I can see where that's justified, but like, can you justify that claim that you're at war? And I think with I don't know. I guess I'm willing to grow that line with the Federal Reserve Bank. I'm willing to go that line with the government.
Yeah.
If practical. I mean, it's often not practical to lie about stuff. If you can be caught up in the lie, if it's the government, they can put you in jail for lying. You might not want to lie in certain situations. But there's plenty of situations off the cuff where you might want to tell that lie.
Right. Well, hey, do you have anything else on this? We should probably wrap it here, but I suggest everybody definitely go read the book. But if we want to get on to our next topic, we got to kind of do it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's quickly get into that, and then I'm gonna have to bounce. But yeah, I do want to.
We can stop it here. I'm okay with that. But you wanted to get into that other thing, but we can save that for another time.
Let's see. What time is it?
It's like 7.
Yeah.
I kind of got to
save that for another topic. I don't want to. I don't want to look. Honestly, man, I don't. I want to give that the time it deserves. As we even go into what that is, but yeah, this has been a good discussion. It's in the stuff I like. I know I've touched on a few of the things that I brought up before, and we can go on and on and on and on about that.
Yeah, and I would highly recommend everybody read this book or listen to the audiobook on Eliway Publications, and there's also a free PDF. I tried to find it on there, but I know it's on there. If not, go to badquaker.com. It's probably there.
Well, look, I'm gonna tell you, if you want to adopt like intelligence tradecraft, which like people should be definitely doing this kind of things. like I said,
and developing
covert
skills. Yeah.
covert entry, like getting around physical security. There's a branch of people in hacker spaces that do hacking into real life. They exploit physical vulnerabilities, and sometimes they're explicitly like trying to get access to like telecommunications infrastructure or mainframe, whatever, and server rooms generally nowadays. And sometimes they're trying to gain physical access into like corporate facilities. So there's corporate espionage. There's like investigative journalists. There's private investigators. So this is not just Roman cops. There's actual city cops that run undercover operations. There's I mean, sometimes I just read a Twitter thread of like women running ops to get a boyfriend or like something like that. Like people do this. People are mischievous. Some people are more talented at this than others to, keep a secret, tell a lie, covertly pass information and carry and go and do things in public without being noticed. Some people certainly have a talent for that, and some of those people get into those industries or whatever. But I gotta say, with YouTube and the internet in general, that all these really kind of previously very niche, very niche, or shadowy communities are just like people are just making how-to videos of every single thing, from like how to tamper with like the anti-tamper tags on shipping containers to how to tamper with the new anti-tamper tags on shipping containers that are designed to not have the vulnerability of the old ones, and so on and so forth. And there's all these weird, so there's, like I said, there's a lot of people in hacker spaces that are so like we have our friend Dr. Lauford that does biohacking, where there's people also that do hacking like security hacking, but like do physical stuff. Lock picking, like I said, they can make locks super complicated and incredibly hard to pick, but there are ways to get around locks, bypass security credentialing, RFID to get people's passwords, not password, like passcodes to bypass magnetic door locks. And you got to kind of keep up with the industry trends, because they're aware of these things too. But another thing is a lot of these techniques are paired with social engineering, where a lot of this is using social skills to exploit vulnerabilities in the actual people that are keeping secrets or have access to things, or the security officers that are at the desk to sign in. And you might need to get close enough to get your RFID scanner or jammer in range of whatever you're trying to effectuate. I mean, I've literally like watched videos of people that have done this, and they're not doing a heist because they wouldn't be talking about this in public. They're doing some real like Ocean's 11 shit, because they're actually contracted by corporations to seek out and exploit vulnerabilities so they can beef up their security. Find out who those people are. Follow those people. They're at DEF CON. They're at all these things with the electronic hackers. And then get into either like spy novels or nonfiction accounts and learn basic surveillance and tradecraft. It could be used on the localist of local levels. And like I said, it could be investigative journalists or private investigators. And you can do some very simple stuff. And there's a lot of vulnerabilities out in the world that simply aren't exploited. Like every once in a while, somebody went up to, remember when somebody went up to Rand Paul on his property? It was his neighbor. Just walked up to him and beat the shit out of him. And in this recent attack with Nancy Pelosi's wife, or like when they I'm not advocating I'm not going to be advocating violence at the end of this statement, but like when they when the guy came and shot up all those senators playing baseball in outside DC, I think. And you can, up to a point, then they have to, after each of these incidents, they have to beef up their security. But no, I'm not advocating violence, but I'm saying no, but people are, for the most part, not using nonviolent subversion and intelligence gathering and so forth tactics against these people. A lot of these politicians are very old and are not very good at keeping their information and devices secure and their passwords secure, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. that can be and has been exploited. But a lot of I feel like there is some effort in some of these respects because political parties do employ like operatives to do some of these things, but a lot of stuff's just not tried. And you'd be amazed. It'd be amazing to see what you could do by exploiting something that just isn't being guarded against. So yeah, I'm really interested in all these topics. There's only been so many you can learn in a short period of time, but like get into some of this stuff and like I'm not saying shoot less, but it's a lot less expensive to do some of these things given the price of ammunition. Keep shooting and keep doing your physical exercises and stay nimble. Keep yourself healthy. Keep yourself mentally healthy. But like develop some of these other more shadowy skills. And I've got to say, like in the past, you would be in a situation where this would be very esoteric knowledge, but it's effectively not at all hidden knowledge anymore. You can just make people run entire YouTube channels on the most spookiest shit. So get involved in that stuff. It's really cool and kind of edgy.
Yeah, the hacker point was that was a really good one. We actually and again, Ben Stone makes this point in the book. He says we really need to make inroads with the hacker community more because there's
pretty
vulnerabilities we
libertarian-minded
could be
anyways.
exploiting. Yeah. Yep. So
they know they can't, they do white hat so they can, make a living doing what they do. There's not, but they're also very libertarian attitudes. These are generally like a kind of maybe not how we always use it, but a kind of left libertarian mindset.
sure, yeah. Yep.
In these groups. And of course there's always government agents there, and they might be like long-haired hackery government agents, but there's like always spooks there. So it's heavily and they rely on these people too. So there's a lot of government involvement here, but the political attitudes, like on a base level, tends to be a type of libertarian for sure.
Yeah, desire for individuality and don't like being told what to do. Yeah.
Don't like to being kept out of things, and don't like to. They're people that tend to not like to be kept out of things and not have access to things and not be able to know things they want to know. Right. That's kind of why you become that kind of hacker. But yeah. So there's people that do just so to help you in your like Google searches. There's people that do like physical security work and penetration testing, and used to be back before these people were getting good at their craft, that a lot of the locks in the corporate world were like a handful of locks, and there was a handful of key rings you could buy that controls all the elevators in the world. That like your what you call it, your I'm sorry, I can't. Like your ThyssenKrupp, just to name one elevator manufacturer, would have 12 ThyssenKrupp keys to access every part of in every model of ThyssenKrupp elevators, or the other brands that I can't remember anymore. And you could get a fire key, and you'd have the fireman's access to up and down. And they've changed all that now, so you've got to keep up with the new levels. Where it used to be that cop cars were almost every cop crown, like 50% or more of the cop crown banks in this country used to be key to like, because like who's going to steal a cop car? You got to be pretty crazy to steal a cop car. And they guess they don't want cops losing the keys and locking the keys in the car. But for whatever reason, it used to be that those cop cars were all keyed the same. They are no longer. So it's getting harder and harder. But that information is also getting more and more out there. So it's a constant arms race, I think.
Yes.
Gate access locks and those sliding loading dock gates and everything. I mean, those things used to be keyed very much alike. What else? Camper and RV equipment boxes. If you have any, be careful, because a lot of those are keyed exactly alike all over the country. And I'm not saying steal something out of somebody's RVs, but if the organization that you are targeting that is a morally bad one is not particularly security conscious, I think that you could probably easily gain access in many cases. Although, like I said,
you could easily go take a dump in their camper. It would be great.
Well, it could be a private individual that does some pretty nasty things in the corporate world. Yeah, absolutely. So
these people have homes and vacations. Do you know what I mean? Like everybody that works for this machine, they all have to live somewhere, and they all go camping, and they all bring their
Well,
kids.
if you want to get compromising, information on people, I mean, the amount of the level of sophistication of I just shudder at thinking what governments have access to. But apparently, the less sophisticated governments are able, and obviously non-state actors, the amount of like Chinese commercial drone technology, the level of sophistication of like Chinese commercial drone technology is like incredible. And just to think, I think it approaches like military. The military must have some insane stuff on the highest levels, but yeah, you can do some things with drones that they can't hear or detect or easily shoot down if it's a politician's cabin in the woods. And I'm not saying necessarily what's going on in a lot of videos that you can find in other parts of the world, like drop hand grenades, but you can get some footage, you can get some embarrassing footage, you can get all sorts of intel. And really, you don't want to go the violence route because it's pretty easy to just like beef up physical security and have more cops guarding people. And you probably don't want to go into that level of like very heavy-handed and cruel response from the government. So we're definitely not advocating violence and everything, but like, yeah, you can get some pretty massively sophisticated cameras, thermal imaging, night vision, and everything commercially on tech from China that's not out of the reach of like average people. And people are doing those things. I saw like a video in Yemen. They made a drone out of some motors and little cheap propellers and sticks, like just twigs.
I saw
See that?
Yeah.
So that's a proof of concept right there, man.
Yeah.
That's next level neo technical revolution stuff.
Yeah.
It just shows like I'm just saying that's just yeah.
Go ahead. What were you saying?
No. I can go on forever about this stuff.
Yeah,
but,
we can probably wrap it up though. I'm gonna go hang out with the kiddos, but yeah, no, this was good. Everybody go check out the book at either badquaker.com or LUA Publications. I highly recommend you read it. Again, I can't stress that enough. Or listen.
When did he write this?
The 2016.
Oh, really? I guess that's no. I didn't.
17?
I got into this stuff a little bit after that, so there's no reason why it would have been before. I just figured it was before then.
Right. Somewhere around there. 15, 16, 17, maybe. I don't know. I bought it when it first came out. So
okay.
I have one of the books from the first run, and then once he sold all those books, LUA Publications started printing it. And then but I have one of the books from the first run. So LUA is still printing and selling the book if you want a physical copy, and then they got they did an audio version of it. So if you want to listen to a free audio version, it's there too. And then the PDF you can find out at either site. So go check it out. And also, I would highly recommend Ben Stone's series Beyond Civil Disobedience, because that was like the precursor to this book.
Okay.
Kind of goes into that, and it kind of destroys several of Hans Hermann Hoppes' arguments. So I also enjoy that. And then,
speaking of which,
no,
I was gonna say, yeah, no. Speaking of which, yeah, we need it. So when we visit what was going to be our second topic for the day, yeah, we can maybe mention some of Hoppe and some of that whole crowd's theory. I know we were going to talk about the like class theory and some of the Moldbug stuff, the cathedral and everything. So yeah, we should probably we should do an interview. We should do an interview with somebody that's read Hoppe. I should just read Hoppe, I guess.
I've read Hoppe.
You have? Okay, well,
I've read a lot of Hoppe. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I read a bunch of articles in like 2 different books from Hoppe. So I've read Democracy, the God That Failed. It was fine, mostly. So I don't know. I
think I would agree with a lot of what he says. You know, a lot of what he's controversial for is okay. So some of it's actually in writing. I mean, directly explicit in his writing, but a lot of it's like, you know, his take on his own theoretical framework. But I don't know if his theoretical framework is like, you know, you can argue whether something's anarchism or not, and that academic argument is, you know, that academic argument is what it is. But could something exist without a state that's so and so nature, so and so nature, so and so nature? I mean, it might not be desirable to use specifically, but I think you'll have a wide diversity of lifestyle choices. I don't expect to have less. What I just want to get going on a tangent about this, but when it comes to like critics of sort of that more right wings, so to speak, kind of anarchist libertarian thought is that for both sides is this. I don't think there's going to be less lifestyle and ideological diversity with statelessness by any means, but actually quite a bit more. So to think that everybody's going to be extremely liberal or communistic or very trad and conservative, I just laugh in their face.
Oh yeah. It's pluralism is the key, but
not even like a good, like let's be pluralism on purpose. It's just that's just the way it's going to be. You can't help that.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
That's my two
cents. Yeah, but we should save that one for when we do a talk on the cathedral. So look for that. We'll do that next time me and Penguin do.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
Do an episode together, or just us. I mean, yeah, two-part.
Two guys, whatever.
Yeah.
All right.
If you're hearing this, is probably after Halloween or Samhain if you celebrate. So I hope everybody had a safe and fun Halloween or Samhain, and I hope all your sigils went well. So everybody be excellent to each other, and peace on my end. You had something?
All right. Yep. Take care, guys. Be safe.